The history of Georgia, a country at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, spans thousands of years, marked by ancient civilizations, invasions, cultural flourishing, and a complex path to modern statehood. Below is a concise overview of Georgia's history, covering its major periods and events with logical reasoning and key examples to illustrate its development. Prehistoric and ancient period, before 4th century CE. Georgia's territory has been inhabited since the Paleolithic era, with evidence of human activity dating back over 1.8 million years, including the Dmanisi hominid remains, some of the oldest in Eurasia. By the Bronze Age, c. 3000–1200 BCE, advanced cultures like the Trialeti and Kura-Araxes thrived, known for sophisticated metallurgy and trade networks. Around the 12th century BCE, proto-Georgian tribes such as the Diauehi emerged in the region. By the 6th century BCE, two major Georgian kingdoms formed. Colchis, in western Georgia, was a wealthy trade-oriented state on the Black Sea coast, famous in Greek mythology as the destination of Jason and the Argonauts for the Golden Fleece. It engaged in commerce with Greek colonies. Iberia, in eastern Georgia centered around Mtskheta, developed as a distinct political entity, influenced by neighboring Persia and later Hellenistic culture. These kingdoms laid the foundation for Georgian identity, blending local traditions with external influences from Mesopotamia, Persia, and Greece. Their strategic location made them targets for conquest, setting a recurring theme in Georgia's history. Classical and early Christian era, 4th century BCE, 7th century CE, Georgia faced repeated invasions due to its position between great empires. The Romans incorporated Colchis into their empire by the 1st century CE, while Iberia remained a vassal state under Roman and Persian influence. A pivotal moment came in 337 CE, when King Mirian III declared Christianity the state religion, making Georgia one of the first countries to adopt Christianity. This followed the missionary work of Saint Nino, who converted the royal family. Christianity unified Georgian culture, fostering a distinct identity amid external pressures. By the 5th–6th centuries, Georgia was caught in the Byzantine-Sassanid rivalry. The Lazark War, 541–562 CE, saw Byzantium and Persia vie for control over Lazarka, formerly Colchis. Despite political fragmentation, Georgian churches and monasteries, like those in Mtskheta, became centers of learning and culture, preserving Georgian script and traditions. Medieval Golden Age, 9th–13th centuries. The unification of Georgia under the Bagrationi dynasty marked its medieval zenith. In the 9th century, King Ashot I began consolidating Georgian territories. By the 11th century, under King David IV the Builder, 1089–1125, Georgia became a regional power. David reformed the military, repelled Seljuk Turk invasions, notably at the Battle of Diauehi in 1121, and fostered cultural and economic growth, building monasteries and expanding trade. The reign of Queen Tamar, 1184–1213, is considered Georgia's golden age. Her rule saw territorial expansion from the Black Sea to the Caspian, and a flourishing of Georgian literature, architecture, and art. Works like Shota Rustaveli's epic poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin, emerged, reflecting a vibrant cultural synthesis of Christian and Eastern influences. Georgia's strategic position on the Silk Road boosted its economy, but its prominence also attracted new threats. Decline and foreign domination, 13th–18th centuries. The Mongol invasions of the 13th century weakened Georgia, fragmenting it into smaller kingdoms, Kartli, Kakheti, and Imereti. The Black Death and subsequent invasions by Timur Tamerlane in the late 14th century further devastated the region. By the 15th century, Georgia was divided, vulnerable to Ottoman and Persian domination. These empires imposed heavy tributes and cultural pressures, though Georgian Christianity and identity persisted through monasteries and local resistance. In the 18th century, Georgia sought alliances to counter Ottoman and Persian influence. King Erakli II of Kartli-Kakheti turned to Russia, signing the Treaty of Georgievsk in 1783, which promised Russian protection. However, Russia failed to defend Georgia against Persian attacks, such as the 1795 sack of Tbilisi by Aga Muhammad Khan. Russian and Soviet rule, 19th-20th centuries. In 1801, Russia annexed eastern Georgia, Kartli-Kakheti, followed by western Georgia by 1810, ending centuries of Bagrationi rule. Russian governance suppressed Georgian autonomy, replacing the Georgian Orthodox Church's autocephaly with Russian oversight, and promoting Russification. Despite this, the 19th century saw a Georgian cultural revival, with figures like Ilya Chavchavadze advocating national identity through literature and education. The Russian Revolution of 1917 allowed Georgia to declare independence as the Democratic Republic of Georgia in 1918, led by the Mensheviks. This short-lived state, 1918-1921, introduced democratic reforms but faced internal strife and external threats. In 1921, the Soviet Red Army invaded, incorporating Georgia into the Soviet Union as part of the Transcaucasian SFSR, later the Georgian SSR. Soviet rule brought industrialization and literacy, but also repression, including Stalin's purges. Joseph Stalin, born in Gori, Georgia, was a complex figure in this context. Georgian culture was stifled, and dissent was crushed. Modern Georgia, 1991-present Georgia, regained independence in 1991 after the Soviet Union's collapse, with Zviad Gamsakhurdia as its first president. However, the early 1990s were turbulent, marked by civil war and separatist conflicts in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, fueled by Russian backing. These regions remain partially recognized states under Russian influence, a lingering challenge for Georgia. Under President Eduard Shevardnadze, 1995-2003, Georgia stabilized, but faced corruption and economic stagnation. The Rose Revolution of 2003 brought Mikhail Saakashvili to power, who pursued pro-Western reforms, NATO and EU integration, and modernization. His tenure saw economic growth but also controversy, culminating in the 2008 Russo-Georgian War over South Ossetia, which resulted in Russian occupation of 20% of Georgia's territory. Since 2008, Georgia has continued its pro-Western trajectory, strengthening democracy and economic ties with the EU, signing an association agreement in 2014. However, it faces ongoing challenges: Russian influence, territorial disputes, and balancing Western aspirations with regional realities. Today, Georgia is a parliamentary republic with a vibrant culture, growing tourism, for example Tbilisi, Batumi, and a strategic role in global energy routes, for example Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. Conclusion. Georgia's history reflects its resilience as a small nation at the crossroads of empires. From ancient Colchis and Iberia to the Golden Age under the Bagrationi dynasty, it has navigated invasions, cultural synthesis, and foreign domination, while preserving a distinct identity rooted in Christianity and language. Modern Georgia's challenges, territorial conflicts and geopolitical tensions, echo its historical struggles, yet its cultural richness and strategic importance endure. If you'd like a deeper dive into a specific period, event, or aspect, for example Georgian culture, recent politics, or archaeological sites, let me know.